Miss Claire, thank you so much for joining us at this hour. And my question is this, as Peter Kuznick was telling us earlier, joining us from Washington, D.C., uh, like Trump himself accused President Obama during Obama years in 2011 and 12, is this a distraction planned to take away American media focus from the Epstein files?
Oh, no. President Trump is very committed to peace, and we've seen that in the fact that he tried another round of negotiations with Iran after what happened in June, where he did negotiations with them and they didn't cooperate. So he had to end up striking them. And instead of just going again for another strike, he gave them another opportunity to negotiate, which they failed. They refused, and so he had to use a military option. But I do not believe that he would use a military option as a distraction for any domestic issues.
Okay, just the timing makes one wonder whether that's the case. But I believe James is to that possibility, and all the fantasies that Rawalpindi generals would have had of making some money on the side, fast buck on the side. Miss Claire, these are the regional dynamics playing out with this war. It's not ending anytime soon. The latest Trump statement that this war is for freedom of Iran. Is this about freedom from Ayatollah Khamenei ultimately? And if yes, how long before the Americans are going to get it?
Well, the Iranian people, the main driver for them, for these protests that we've seen earlier this year, and for them asking for American intervention, which they have, is the economics in Iran. The Iranian people are suffering immensely, and the regime spends all of their money on things like pursuing nuclear weapons, funding terror proxies, all of these things that then bring the U.S. attention. So the goals are related, and the objectives are certainly related. We don't want Iran to have a nuclear weapon. And in doing so, we would, if they could stop doing that, then the idea is that they should give relief to their people. This regime won't do that. But giving the Iranian people an opportunity to come out from this regime and build something new, I think is, something that the Israelis want. It's something that the U.S. is supporting Israel in doing that. And Israel has a lot more operations on the ground, and the way that the US supports it is through the things like the airstrikes, the missile defense systems that they've deployed all over the region right now. So they're supporting the goal, but it's definitely going to be up to the Iranian people to take it to the finish line.
Okay, and yeah, please go ahead, sir.
It's a very seductive logic, but still Iran breaking news now coming in that reports suggesting defense minister has been killed in the Israel-US strike. James, how do you really look into it?
Well, look, I see that the administration has been wandering around from one justification to another, which means that they have had a lot of difficulty in also locating their own interest in this strike. Yes, we've identified regime change, and it went to controlling the ballistic missile program. And then all of a sudden, there was a lot of emphasis on the nuclear program. So again, I think that this is helping us to understand that Trump is looking for a foreign policy accomplishment, and that this search for a justification and this groping towards an idea and so I don't want to totally delegitimate all of that, but I think that the administration certainly could have taken more time to get us to this point, could have let negotiations go a little bit longer. So in some ways, yes, I think regime change is a good goal, and I do think that they can get to that, especially through eliminating a lot of the key leadership and disabling the government. Now, it's going to take a while because they have a dual track government.
But this is also here. But this is James. This is also at the cost of destabilizing the entire region. What was the point, Sarah? If I can also bring you in to the debate, what was the point of the talks that we're talking about when the intention was very clear? There was a military build-up that all of us were basically witnessing since January or even before that, and then this charade of talks. Now, the United States of America seems to have always taken this high moral ground, but the reality is this, that when it comes to this, it's a dirty business.
Well, on the Iran issue, the Trump administration is completely the opposite of anything that Obama or Biden did. So I think, whatever was going on with the moral high ground or whatever they thought they were doing, that's not what Trump is doing. The reason why we saw the military buildup and then the talks is because Trump understands that people like the Iranian regime only respond to force. And so before he wanted to start talks with them, he sent that armada as a signal that we're serious, take the talk serious and come to the table with a concession. And the Iranian regime didn't do that. And they have made this mistake twice now. It's interesting because they haven't quite learned who they're dealing with. They think they're still dealing with Obama or Biden, but this is Trump, and he's not afraid to use military force if the negotiations are looking like a waste of time, which they were, because they spent 3 weeks talking about where they were going to have a meeting and then when they would have the next meeting. They never actually got to a substantive discussion.
Well, in fact, General G.D. Bakshi, look at the messaging that President Trump has been doing. It is quite muddled up. Here on Republic TV, our attempt is going to be to take you through every live update that's coming in from across the globe. In fact, multiple resources that we have in US, in Israel, in a short while from now. We'll be joined by some of the finest Israeli experts on this broadcast. The breaking news now coming in, General Bakshi and Sierra, is this, that Britain, France and Germany have all issued a joint statement, and that, let me tell you, is just perhaps falling short of complete support for the United States of America as well as Israel. And I just want to quote here, they are saying they were critical of Iran's nuclear missile regional policies and the appalling violence and repression against its own people. So basically calling out the Iranian regime for saying that there is repression against its own people. Once again, I'm quoting, we did not participate in these strikes, but are in close contact with our international partners, including the United States of America, Israel, and partners in the region. Sarah, as though Britain, France, and Germany had any other choice?
Well, all of these countries, Britain, France, Germany, the European countries, are at risk for Iranian missiles and Iranian nuclear program. So I think that it makes sense that they're concerned about this, that they've been watching this. And, a lot of these countries, don't say it publicly or they'll say it in their own way. But they do support the sort of peace through strength approach that President Trump has taken towards Iran.
Okay.